I had thought I was done with Mexican cane juice rums after my last video. I mean, how can I top mushroom, really? But the second I finished recording that, I got a package from the PM Spirits folks containing a whole bunch of samples labeled Alambique Serrano. Apparently, a whole bunch of these people have been getting these packages because there's a whole bunch of reviews of this stuff popping up. Now, what this is, and I can tell you because they provided extensive notes, is an artisanal rum made in the Cañada region of Mexico. Cañada is at the far north of the state of Oaxaca, sort of central north, from the Krassel family. And I said to myself, Krassel family, that rings a bell. And then I went digging and I remembered, oh yeah, these are the folks who make this stuff. Cañada, Aguardiente de Oaxaca. I adore this. I adore this stuff. And I was wondering, like, okay, wait, what? Alambique Serrano, why the different brands when it's from the same producer? Like, why not just call these like Cañada Añejo, or for that matter, why not just call this like Alambique Serrano Blanco or something like that? And I think the answer is like Cañada is imported by T. Edward Wines, and these are of course the PM Spirits folks. So in my brain, in my headcanon, I want to imagine that T. Edward Wines and PM Spirits are in like a decades-long like blood feud, stealing producers from each other. In any case, this is a product from the same folks who make Cañada, and has been aged. Now, importantly, Cañada, why do I keep putting it aside? Is all from what they are calling a Krassel still, which is essentially a very, very short column still, artisanal column still. Whereas these are a mix of the Krassel still stock and also some pot still stock. Apparently they've got themselves, the Krassel family has got themselves some Krassel stills as well. Now, the blends on these are extremely complex at times. There's 2 blends and 2 single casks. I'm going to start with the second of the single casks because in many ways it's the most simple to understand. It's also the lowest proof of these. Wait, I've been talking so much I've forgotten to actually pour these things out. I have not done notes. I haven't done no prep work aside from, studying up on the writing here. Now these range in strength from the low 50s ABVs up to above 70. And some of these are aged in regular old American oak, and some of these are aged in French oak. The one that's above 70 is French oak, so I'm a little bit scared of this guy, and that's why it goes last. Okay, let's get going. Alambique Serrano, single origin Oaxacan rum, single cask number 2, 53% ABV, and this is again all from the Krassel still. All cane juice based, a native yeast, wild fermented. Let's see. The cane varietal is Java. I'm not going to read everything they've written on here, but just the important stuff. And it was aged in a American oak cask, so 213 liters, aged 15 months, which is not very long, but it's a humid, it's a hot, dry environment, right? So let's see what we got. Basically, this is aged Cañada, American oak aged Cañada. Considering what a kind of herbaceous, almost toothpastey explosion Cañada can be, this is actually rather restrained. I'm getting some spearmint happening. You're going to get vanilla with American oak, and that is, I'm certainly getting vanilla. different kinds of mint happening with this as well. There's some peppermint coming through too. Basil. Touches of fennel coming through. White pepper. Really, like there's like a what is it called? Like I'm thinking of a kind of cookie, a shortbread. There is a shortbread note on this, kind of intermingling with the vanilla. A little bit of dessert cherry as well. Again, it's a pretty reticent nose at this point, so I'm curious whether this will open up with water. Let's see what happens on the palate. Ooh. Very explosive with the... It's like a black pepper, wintergreen, like woody fennel explosion on the back end of this, or really like the mid palate transitioning into the finish and the finish. Interesting form on this. Yeah, really light up front. Arrives quite quietly. A little vanilla, little oh yeah. I'm still gonna go like shortbread on the front end, and then pow, it just covers your whole mouth in black pepper, fennel, a little bit of black olive, and just lots of wood tannins. Let's see if I can dig anything more out of this. A little bit of a tea note happening, some like pu'er tea in there. But I gotta be honest with you, it feels like, especially compared to unaged Cañada, it feels like this is maybe in a little bit of a dumb phase. There's lots happening on the back end of this, but again, the nose and the front of the palate are still pretty quiet. So I'm very curious to see where this goes with water, because I'm thinking this will open up more. Let's give this a couple squirts, at least 2, probably like 3. See where it goes. It's already coming out. Ooh, nice. One more time. So in advance, I can say this benefits from water. Do not be shy with your water. Moving on. This is blend number 1 from Alambique Serrano. And this is, let me consult my notes. Oh yeah, this is the one that is a blend of about 4-to-1 of column-distilled rum, aged in ex-cognac casks for quite a long time, 30 months, and a little bit of pot-distilled rum, aged 9 months in virgin French oak. So all same kind of stats in terms of the fermentation, still Java cane, all cane juice, wild, native yeast, wild fermented. It's just different stills and then different casks. And this is, how strong is this? 55.6%. So a wee bit stronger. Ooh. There is a little bit of a cough drop thing happening. Like, I feel like I'm smelling Ricola. gotta say, with the mention of cognac casks and French oak, I was expecting a whole bunch of like dried fruit, and it's not really happening. There's a little bit of prune, but yeah, what's really coming through is like cough drops, like red NyQuil, Robitussin. Like pine trees, like just straight up pine needles. Okay, but then there's the fennel, a little black olive, some minerality, mint, basil. Quite a lot of pepper, black pepper. That's the oak, I'm imagining. And some floral hints. I'm guessing that's the cognac casks. Yeah, just some mixed dried flowers with a little hint of rose water. Aromatically, much more, I don't want to say much more interesting, but much more forward, much more expressive than the first glass on the palate. And now the French oak is expressing itself much more thoroughly. Fig butter, a lot of fig butter on this. Black pepper, black teas, lots of different kinds of black teas. We got the pu'er, which was there before, but also a little bit of Darjeeling happening. Dried cherry. Oh, that's good. I will say, and this probably just comes from the youth of this relative to the usual stuff I review on this channel. Most of what's happening on this rum is happening in the front of my mouth. So the mouth, what I call the mouth length, is pretty short. It's a big explosion up front, and then basically past my molars, not much is happening. And that's, for something of this age, that's kind of okay. The pine needles are back, the mint, basil, little oregano. Certain minerality, but hard to nail down. Not a whole lot of flowers happening here. Maybe we retain that little drop of rose water, but that's really about it. Yeah, I mean, it kind of tastes like what it is, which is a relatively young cane juice rum aged in French oak. And you know what? That's a genre I enjoy. So let's give this a drop of water, see what happens to it. Solid finish, not exceptional, but again, it's still pretty young. I'm going to go 3.5, see if it needs more. Ooh, water's bringing out the cough drops note. Ah. Moving on to blend number 2. 64.1% ABV, so we're making a big jump. And this is, again, a combination of 2 different batches. It's a much smaller batch than blend 1. So this is all pot still, but different batches of pot still. And one of those batches, the big one, again, it's a ratio of about 4-to-1, 5-to-1. The larger of the 2 was aged in French oak for 9 months, and then the other was aged only in basically glass, open glass demijohns. So rested, we would normally say. So Yeah, I mean, you can think of this as all pot still, partly aged. I mean, it's all aged, but some of it is not aged in oak. That makes sense? What I really wish is I had a sample of just the bare pot still rum to compare this with. Oh, this is a good nose. I've talked in the past about how much I enjoy blends of younger and older stock, or unaged and aged stock, because they often just work really well. And here is a prime example. Weirdly enough, what I'm first getting is some kind of old school chocolate, like chocolate toffee, black pepper. Man, a mint, but it's almost more like candy mint now, like junior mints, York peppermint patties, that kind of thing. Salted licorice, fennel, even some Pepsi creepy in a little, which I'm okay with. Weirdly, Pepsi, dried flowers. Really, I want to say complex, but it isn't. It's just um, it's an interesting combination of things going together, and it also smells really good. It just smells like a little bit decadent. Oh, okay. Wait, there's some, of all things, apple cheese. Apple cheese is in the house. Basically dried, boiled down apple, and a little dried cherry as well. So that's the French oak talking, kind of speaking up. And like, I don't know, generic black tea, like restaurant black tea. Oh, it's nice. I'm enjoying this. I'm really enjoying that kind of junior mints note. Weirdly enough, junior mints were like always one of my favorite candies. Let's see what happens in the palate. I'm absolutely feeling that 64%. Not gonna lie. God, the oak on this is just raw, but it's also very fresh at the same time. Like that's the magic of blending aged and unaged stocks. Pepsi, fennel, and olives are the first things to come to mind. There's a lot going on here. Hold on. Really good development. Like just a couple of steps beyond what the previous two glasses have been doing. Um, Arrives with a fair bit of sweetness, like almost raisins or raisinets. But then, yeah, just kind of a little bit like the first the first class, the single cast number two, but even better. It kind of explodes in my mouth with lots of black pepper, lots of just stuff. The York peppermint patties are back in the house. A little like lime peel. Apple cheese. Apple cheese is definitely there. Um, some coffee notes like Vienna roast coffee. Lots of dried fruit, mint, basil. Did I mention those? Wintergreen, some menthol, oregano again. This is quite complex, and the way it behaves in the mouth is what's impressing me, because unlike the previous glass, this is actually kind of has an impressive mouth length. It's kind of covering my entire mouth back to my throat. Good long finish. This works. Nice. I'm going to add some water to this, and we'll move on. 2, 3. I need at least 5, right? It's like 64%. Jesus. I'm not going to add a full 6 squirt. I'm going to do like a quarter squirt. Okay, there we go. These no notes marathons are fun, but they're also like just physically taxing. All right. And this is the one I've been fearing. Single cask number 1. And this is bottled at 70.3% alcohol by volume. I shouldn't be able to handle this unless I have an 8 hazardous materials license. Double distilled in pot stills and aged 9 months in virgin French oak casks. All the same stats with the fermentation, the cane type. It's just this is much stronger. Much stronger. Amazingly, I'm not getting the excessive alcohol bite on the nose. If anything, it's actually reminding me more of the other single cask. There's some kind of upfront, nice like vanilla and shortbread notes. There's a lot of black pepper going on as well. Yeah, vague cherry. It's not really cherry, the fruit. It's more like the wood. It's like cherry wood smoke. The mint is back. The basil is back. Fennel. But a little bit like the other single cask. Again, it feels just a little bit like it's not talking very much. Little hints of kind of floral elements, almost a potpourri-like thing, but subtle. It's understated right now. So this is again one I'm curious to see what water does with it. On the palate, Hail Mary, full of grace. To my surprise, this is actually gentler on the palate than the previous 2 glasses. I think maybe that's down to a little bit less oak influence. I'm not sure. Let me try this one more time. There's some alcohol nip. I'm not going to lie. Like there's a little bit of a numbing effect on my tongue, but it's less than anticipated. Nope. It's there. That's really good as well. Make some notes to myself. So the Ricola cough medicine thing, that's back. That's definitely back. Pine needles, those are back. mint, wintergreen, basil, cherry wood. Dates, figs. The more sips I take of this, the more the French oak is kind of showing up. The black pepper, the dried fruit, prunes, little bit of like crappy raisin, like the little raisin with the red box you got in school lunches. It's not good raisin, but nice. It's intense, but I gotta say, after blend number 2, this actually feels like a little bit of a step back in terms of like complexity and play of all the different elements. This, you know, to some extent, like blend number 1 feels like a cane juice rum, you know, aged lightly in French oak, which is what it is, and I'm appreciating that. So, but I want to come back. Again, like with the first cask, it feels a little bit like it's got more to say, so I'm going to come back to it after it has water. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 isn't going to be enough. Let's see. Six and like a third. All right, let's go back through these one more time. I'm especially curious to see what the 2 single casks do now that I've added a little bit of water. All right, back to the single cask number 2. Again, this was column-distilled American oak. Interesting. It's kind of, what is that? You know, tropical Skittles. This now, like, it smells like tropical Skittles. You know, like the yellow and green ones, like when you used to crush those up and smell, like crush those up, smell them. That is what this smells like. Tropical Skittles. Is there more going on? Yes, of course, there's more going on. Pu'er tea, more so like the leaves than actual stewed tea. It's gotten quite dusty. This is totally opened up with the addition of water, which is what I hoped would happen. So good job. Single cask number 2. Plantain peel. The mint is still. I just can't get past the tropical Skittles thing. I'm loving it. Let's see what happens on the palate. It's an interesting aspect of these that I feel like I'm not totally getting what they're doing on the first sip. Like it's only 2 or 3 sips in that my palate is starting to adjust to what's going on. On the first sip of this, I actually was thinking, uh-oh, have I drowned this? Because it actually felt quite thin. But on sip 2, it feels much more substantive. White pepper, vanilla, quite a lot of like little tropical fruit things going on, but less Skittles, more like actual tropical fruits this time. Papaya, some mango. Some nice herbaceous touches. Less oak this time than I was getting before. In many ways, what's happened with this is the oak has just kind of blown off, and what I'm ended up with is good old Cañada, which I'm not upset by. Like I love Cañada. I am happy to have another glass of it. It's nice. It's got a fair bit going on, but I got to tell you, it's not going to be the winner among these. I'm going to give this 85 points. What's going to annoy me is that the score just kind of progressively goes up with strength, because I don't want to be that guy who just likes the fire bombs. I don't. Anyways, let's move on to blend number 1. Again, this was column still mostly, with a little bit of pot still thrown in. It's actually mellowed out and gotten a little bit more dusty with the addition of water. In some ways, you could almost mistake this for a young Armagnac or something now. There's just lots of dusty French oak notes. Like, you hand me a nice, like 10, 12-year-old Armagnac. I'm not, it might smell something like this. But there's those little minty touches. Even some lemon peel coming through now. And of all things, I don't know if I just can't get tropical Skittles out of my head, but there is a little bit of tropical Skittles happening here too. So maybe that's just a feature of aged Cañada. I don't know. Let's see what happens on the palate. There was like a little moment when Tootsie Roll popped up right in the middle of the mid palate, and then it was gone. Let me try this one more time. These are, especially these middle two, are kind of hard to wrap my brain around. Yeah, that's great. Arrives on the front. Kind of, again, very gently. These tend to arrive very gently, and then there's like a pop of Tootsie Roll and black pepper. The Tootsie Roll goes away, but the black pepper sustains. And yeah, there's that little bit of floral touch. This one actually seems to get simpler with water, if anything. The mouth length improves. And to some extent, the mouth feel and the finish also improve. Well, there's the pepper I was remembering from the first time. But it feels like some of those more subtle notes, especially the herbaceous notes, are kind of being lost. This really comes across more like an Armagnac or something now. It's an Armagnac with chocolate and a little bit of like tropical Skittles floating around in the background, but that's kind of what I'm getting. It is good though. Oh, what do I score this? Let me compare it to the first glass. I'm trying to see if I can get to 86. I don't know if I can get to 86. It's just not quite complex or dense enough with water. So I'm going to give this an 86 minus. 86 minus, still pretty darn good. By the way, I have no idea what the price points are on any of these. I've deliberately not checked. Moving on to, this was my favorite in the initial run through. This was the 100% pot still blend number 2, which was partly aged and partly, well, I should say partly oaked and partly unoaked. And this one's really throwing toffee notes at me and like Tootsie Roll notes. Ooh. It's almost as if you made chocolate toffee that had been infused with, with various herbs, particularly basil, oregano, not mint, like these are softer herbs. And there's some Pepsi creeping in there. Interesting. This one feels a little bit like it also maybe dumbed down a little bit, at least on the nose, with the addition of water. On the palate, it's still very delicious, though. This is, of all these so far, this is the one I would probably most be happy with having a bottle of, just because it's so darn drinkable. There's French oak elements in this, the dried fruit, the pepper, the sense of a little bit of dustiness, a little puer, like old puer tea. But there's freshness too, and some sweetness. Oh, it's lovely. There's mint. There's the junior mint York's peppermint patty thing going on, which is really seducing me. Good finish, good mouth length. It's a very good rum. I'm going to give this the same score as I give good old Cañada. I'm going to give this an 87. 87 points out of 100 for blend number 2. And moving on, back to the single cask, brought down from 70.3% to probably somewhere in the 40s somewhere. Ooh. Intensely pine driven, like there's almost a pine sol sort of thing happening. Yeah, pine sol, air freshener. Once you dig underneath that, you can detect the some muddled mint, basil, oregano, lots of pepper. But yeah, the overwhelming note is like pine salt, but nice. Very aromatic, very. And this was the one I was complaining where the aromatics were a little bit restrained before, so I'm happy to see them coming out. I wasn't expecting so many like evergreen notes, but here we are. I'm pleased on the palate. This is doing the same thing as before, where it's just right in the mid palate. There's like a burst of Tootsie Roll, and that kind of disappears. Really, it's kind of really more swallowed up by a big old cloud of black pepper. Let me try this one more time. Yeah, it's like you're putting old school chocolate toffee into your mouth and like pine needles at the same time, but it kind of works. And throw some like cough lozenges in there for fun. It's very unusual. It's very special. I don't. It's not as easygoing as the previous glass. I don't even think it's throwing as many little side details as the previous glass, but it's also very good. Yeah, I'll throw this. I'll give this a flat 86. I like it a lot, but the winner here is the blend number 2. Alambique Serrano blend number 2. Absolutely delicious. I mean, they're all pretty good. I like all of these a lot. So yeah, and that is my review of these, I guess. I will take my PM bucks now. Thank you very much, and cheers.